So, as promised, here's a quick video of the replacement Android head unit system for a 987. This is my standard unit that's in it at the moment, which I will be replacing for this unit here, which is an Android unit. Fairly close match on the plastics, I would say. I'm hoping it's not a tad lighter. Once it goes in, I'll see the two of them sort of more side by side, but certainly looks a good match. Buttons are very similar looking design. Yeah, should be good. It's a fairly sizable unit. As you can see, I've noticed some of them that are quite thin looking on the back. They're just more of a panel, but this one is quite a sizable unit. I've kind of pre-wired all the cables in the back of it. Mine's isn't a BOSE car, so it's got the standard door speakers, as you can see there. It comes with this CAN bus boxes and stuff like that, so they all have to be wired in as well, but it's all plug and play. It doesn't come with instructions in the box, believe it or not, but the company I ordered from AliExpress sent me a load of pictures of where it gets wired into and stuff, so it's fairly self-explanatory. Plugs only really go in one place each. A couple of them connect together. The CAN bus box is part of the main loom, and then it connects in here with this two white wires. The next two are USBs, so they're individual USB headers, as you can see here and here. So they go in the next two. And then the third one there on the end is for a reversing camera, which I don't have in this car yet, but I'll put the plug in and I'll try and stick that to the side somewhere down the side, and I'm going to order a camera for it as well, because it'd be good to get a reverse camera on the Boxster. Aerial, pretty self-explanatory, just plugs in. GPS and 4G cables. The 4G appears to take, not the 4G, sorry. Yeah, this one here takes a SIM card, so you pop this little clip off. I don't know if it'll pop off just now. Wait, I'll put the camera down for a second. Yeah, so you take that lid off, and there's actually a slot for a card to go in. Yeah, so I don't know. TGM it says on it, so I don't really know what that is, but it's on a long enough cable to stick into the glove box, so I will do that. There is also a slot here for a SIM card for a phone as well. No, I'm not putting one in it. The unit's got Android Auto and Apple Carplay, so I will just be using my mobile phone. Anyway, so yeah, we'll see how we got on. I'll get this all pulled out and get it fitted and give it a test. I do have new door speakers to go in from Pioneer as well. They will be either put in today if I've got time. If not, I can do them at a later date. Okay, wish me luck. Bye. Yeah, so first things first, you will need to remove these side panels and the footwells to gain access. So there's a T30 Torx in behind the carpet layer there. This just unscrews, comes out, and that will allow you to gain access to the remainder of the fittings to get the actual layer side panels off. So a bit of noise, 2 seconds. There we go. Yeah, so that unscrews fairly easily, and a little bit yet. And it's exactly the same on both sides. That comes off, allows you access, and I believe, yeah, so looks like, is there meant to be another one at the top there? It's missing. Potentially someone's been in here before. Yeah, so another Torx bit there, and I presume there's meant to be another one up the top there, but looks like mine's only got one. So yeah, I'll get them stripped off on both sides, and they just pop out, pull forward towards the gear stick, and you can get them out. They're quite tough at the top, So just be careful you don't break your clips when you're pulling them out. Give it a bit of a sort of jiggle and try and push them behind at the same time. Okay, I'll pull them out and you'll join me again once I've got the stereo down to the bare bones. Okay, so these are loose now. I pull them from behind and it pops them out at the top and the bottom, and then they should just wiggle out, he says, if you can't get it out. There we go, there's one out. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, as you can see, there's a row of clips down them. So ideally you want to push it from behind as high up as you can, because this top one here is very stiff on both sides of mine. But I do have them all undone now. So that's them out, which then gives you access to the actual head unit. Now I believe there's a little bit you have to push in to dislodge it. There we go. Quite awkward. Alright, I'm going to have to do this with two hands, sorry, I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, there's a little clip that you have to sort of try and push in with your hand. Let me see if I can try and show you that. Yeah, see that there? That there. So you, yeah, so you try and get your finger up in to the back here and push them in. You need to push your finger in behind the black. There is a little access hole on the plastic. Try and get that out. I have forgotten to go and get a microfiber cloth or something to put over the gear stick and the buttons at the bottom there, so I don't scratch them when I'm dismantling this. So I'm just going to go and do that now quickly. So yeah, that's it pulled out. As I said, little push clips, top and bottom. So you just need to try and get your fingers in. See, there's holes here, so you're coming in from this side, pushing them top and bottom, either side, just to dislodge it, and some light pressure pulling forward on the edge of the head unit to actually pull it out. That'll give you full access to the back here. Like I said, get a microfiber towel or something, just sit it down all over everything, because there's nothing worse than fitting your new stereo to realise you've scratched up all your plastics everywhere. So that's it out. It's just a case of disconnecting all these connections on the back now, getting the old head unit out of the way and getting ready to click in all the new connectors, see how it goes, see if it powers up. There is a bit of wiring I'm going to have to do, because on this module here, which is PCML, most PCML, there's a plug in the back. I don't quite know what it goes to, which we'll figure out. And there is a ignition, a ground and a battery positive. So 3 wires to wire in for definite. So I've got my multimeter, I'll just have to probe about and see where I can get them feeds. Okay. Okay, so I'm back again. I have put the new head unit back into its bag just so it can sit and hang over the side here. It does look like a bit of a spaghetti junction, unfortunately. I've pulled all the cables, like the USBs, the antennas, that card reader slot, GPS and the microphone just out the way just now, and I have been focusing on just connecting up the plugs. So aerial, so the aerial plug that comes with it plugs into the black to black sort of thing, or yeah, black to black connector. Very self-explanatory, just clips in. This plug here on my car doesn't seem to go anywhere. I do not have steering wheel controls, so I am assuming this is a steering wheel control plug. So that does not have anything to plug into in my car. There is absolutely nothing in there that I can pull out and plug into it. So off the main back of the stereo you have the standard sort of 3 ISO type connectors. So they just plug straight in. That's what comes off the back of your standard unit into here. Then the little CAN bus box that actually had like a blanking plug in there, and this connection that you unclip and pull out, and your 2 orange cables on the clip plug straight in there. Now there is a connection on the back here, but I do not have another plug to plug into that, so I'm not sure what that's for. Maybe another accessory that I don't have. So the only thing I don't have anything for is this yellow one. I don't know what this is. I'm going to have to Google it and find out what this is actually for. This was plugged into the back of my PCCM, so yeah. But I do not have anywhere to plug it into this new unit, which is a bit confusing, because everything seems to have a home apart from this that's come off the car side of it, that is. So yeah, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to have a quick Google and see if I can find out. See if there's anywhere else I should be putting it that I've just maybe missed. It certainly doesn't go into any of these connections. These are all like AV type cables and stuff. They're just not the right type of connections. That's the reverse camera one, USBs, yeah, so there's nowhere to actually plug that in. I have not wired in the ignition, the ground and the battery 12 volt yet. I will do that shortly, but I think actually probably okay to put the key in and see if it starts, because the standard power goes through these cables, so this in theory should power up. Now if I put the key in the ignition and turn it on, so yeah, let's put the camera down on the magnet a second, and let's have a look, see if this unit powers up if I put the key in the car. Key is in. Yeah, so there we go, starting to power up. Fairly instantaneous as well. That was quick. From putting the key in, I've not got the ignition lights on, that's just been putting the key in. So yeah, definitely works. Touch screen as well, cool. Obviously nothing's connected to it yet, but you get the idea. Pretty cool. Yeah, I have no idea about any of the settings, what any of these do. I'm just clicking away furiously here. There's obviously a navigation one. Oh, there we go, side swipe to the right, all the different apps. Okay, so yeah, it seems very responsive, I must admit. That's no different than an iPhone for reaction, I would say. I will wire up them 3 wires, because I presume that'll give me power when the ignition's not on if I push the button, same as what the command module does normally. I'll get that wired in and I'll get it all put back in the dash and see how we go. But yeah, seems to be working without that yellow thing, so I'm quick Google that, find out what it is, and then I'll be back in a second. Thanks. Back again. I can't find what that's for, so I don't think it's actually required with this new head unit. So I'm gonna leave it unplugged, obviously, and see what happens when I start using the unit. So I do need to wire in these 3 battery positive, ground, and ACC, which is ignition 12 volt on as well, which is should be fairly straightforward. I should be able to pick them up on this plug. Usually the big brown wire, the red and green, and there'll be another one that'll be an ignition feed, but certainly that big brown wire is highly likely to be the ground, which I will test in a second. That big thick wire there is likely to be a battery 12 volt, and then we do have a random wire in the corner here on this top plug, which is just a green wire. It doesn't have anything connecting the other side and a wire coming out the other side, so I'm hoping that's maybe a 12 volt, but I've got my multimeter. First off, I'm going to check for ground. 2 seconds, so I'll just put the phone down a second. I'll wedge my wire from my probe into this back of this big brown. Yeah, so I've just wedged that in there so it's touching the contact. That's pretty hard to see with that in the way. But yeah, so that's the brown wire, so I've just poked that in there. I've set it to like an ohms reading for continuity, and the buzzer. So the buzzer will tell me straight away if that's a ground. Sorry, my finger's in the way. And you can just touch it on a part of your, I use the door hinge, or you can use the lock. There you go, so that's got continuity ground, so that's definitely a ground. A safe thing to try before you put it all back together is put the key in, put the ignition on, so you've got ignition lights, and check that it remains a ground. Yeah, it does. I've seen it before in some cars. They have switched grounds and some voltages change on some of the wiring. But yeah, so we know that's a negative, and we can now test for the other wires. I'll maybe swap that around, I don't like. Put the black wire, should always be in there. Not that it really matters for testing, because you just get a negative 12 volts if you see. And then let's just probe in here, see what the meter says. So I'm going to go into the green and red wire, the big thick one. So I switch this to, so switch my multimeter over to 20 volts mode, plug that in there, and I have 12 volts permanent feed with ignition off. No key in the ignition. So again, let's try and poke that in there. I'm going to put the key in ignition, ignition on, and it remains a 12 volt. So that is a battery 12 volt. So there's where this black wire I'll splice in, and this yellow wire I shall splice in to that two wires. I'll just trim the insulation back. I'll probably do it on the stereo harness side as opposed to the car side, because obviously this is sacrificial to an extent, whereas the main wiring we don't want to be chopping into that. So I'll probably peel back a bit of wire in there with my wire strippers, put it in, solder it, bit of heat shrink or tape over the top of it, and that'll work. So last but not least, I want to see if I can find an ignition switch. Well, I'm going to try this green wire at the top. Let me see if I can. So what is that wire? I'll put the phone down a second. And then we'll try and jam this in here. So it is not showing voltage. Okay, so that is maybe not. Oh, my wire's fallen out, that's why. Hang on a minute, sorry, reset. Go back in. It's in there. Yeah, okay, so I've probed that in my terminal. I pulled my plug out of my terminal, it fell out. So I have probed in beside that green wire and into my earth on that plug. I now do have a 12 volt, well it says 11, but that's obviously just where the battery's at. So I pull the key out, and after a few seconds this should drop to 0 if it is an ignition. Just one second, there we go, it's dropped to 0. Key back in, straight away back 12 volts. So that is an ignition 12 volts. Does it stay on once I put the... Yeah, so that is an ignition 12 volts. So that green wire I can either wire into this side of the plug, see if I can find a pin terminal to fit it, or again perhaps have to splice into the wire. I will perhaps maybe have to splice into the wire on the vehicle side this time, unfortunately. If I don't have a small spade terminal I can plug into this side. Anyway, I'll get them three wired up and soldered in, whatever I'm going to have to do, and that will be it, basically ready to reassemble. Should be okay. I'll need to stick some of these antennas and things into places. There's plenty, feels like there's plenty of room for sticking them in the inside. I'll give it a bit of a clean up. I don't want anything exposed. I do have a microphone to install somewhere. I think I'm going to route it through the site here and try and get it up on top of the steering wheel plastics here. rather than routing it up the pillar, because this is a Boxster, so I don't really want to be messing about with these trims for the roof. But anyway, so yeah, you'll join me back in a wee while. Thank you. Okay, so we're back. I've went probably fairly over the top of what I've had to do. I know some people just use Scotch locks and stuff, but what I've actually done is cut and spliced the wires and soldered in. I've put a little bit of heat shrink over them, then I've wrapped them in insulating tape, colour coded, so I know what's live red obviously and black earth. So that's if you remember, the ground battery positive wired into the black and yellow, and then I couldn't get the pin out of this, so I have just went into this side of the loom. I know I said not to go into the car side of the loom, but I've spliced into that with the ignition on. So in theory this stereo is now wired up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it all, push it all back in just temporarily so we can see the front of the screen, and then I will see how we go on, see if it's all working once it's sort of half situated in place. I just, it's a bit hard to do this one-handed, so let me just get this all tidied up. I'll plug this back into the stereo. I just took it away for extra room when I was soldering, and then I'll get this situated in. But this, there's loads of room, so this should all just tuck behind there nicely, so bear with me. Okay, that's all just tucked in there temporarily at the moment. Let's give it a try. I'm going to go key in ignition. Should power up within a couple of seconds. There we go, straight on. What am I on here? Let's go back to the main menu. So you can change all this graphics and all that in the settings. You can put the USB in and put the Porsche logo and stuff on this, I believe. And that's even just from the sales ads on AliExpress. There's various logos in different formats, so that's all, because it's Android, it's all changeable, which I think is quite good. So you can kind of set this up however you prefer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and connect my phone. How do you connect it? It's maybe Bluetooth. Here we go. It's very similar. I've got a similar sort of system in my Mercedes. They are upgraded. Hang on a minute. I'm gonna. Okay, finally sussed out how to get the CarPlay working. Not very intuitive, this thing, I will warn you. So pressing all, device, applications, and then this gives you a big list of apps. It's very small. There must be a setting to make these bigger, but CarLink 2.0, and you can hardly actually see it. It's probably because the sticker's still on the screen, but there's actually an open there, and it does the connect and asks you to authorise on your phone, and voila, you have CarPlay. So yeah, works fine by the looks of it. So my terrible taste in music will be on here, by the way. So okay, it is in. It was a bit of a pain in the backside with the clips on the side. I've taken a couple of photos and I'll share them in the post, but there's little retaining clips which are meant to replace these ones, but they've bent them too short, essentially. What they've done is they've bent them too short, so what they do is unscrew them, take them off and straighten them at the end, pointing towards the dashboard. Put them back in and it clips in lovely and securely, and sits nice and fairly square. I just need to obviously square it up a bit when I put the side trims on, but yeah, it sits fairly well, but before I put it in, it was just flopping in and out. It was absolutely horrendous. So I mean, it is a cheap stereo, I get that, but certainly them two clips, they've not made them either side properly. They've made them the right length, but they've put a bend in the end of them thinking that'll work, but you actually have to flatten the end, straighten them out with a pair of pliers. Just used, reach down there, simple pair of pliers just to flatten out the end, and then stuck them back on, screw them back on, slide it in, and it will clip in position perfectly fine. So that's how it gets around that. I've seen it at quite a few of the forums. I had a quick look on a lot of the Android forums. Are all people have drilled holes and put screws and stuff in them, but you literally just have to straighten the thing and it'll clip in. So that's it. It's installed more or less. I'll follow up another wee short clip in a second, with all the trims back on and everything. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Done. Okay, there we go folks, that's it installed. Not too bad a fit. It's, yeah, it's not factory. The grey is slightly different. I don't know how well that's coming off in the camera. Yeah, it's not 100%, but at the end of the day, I mean, my Boxster's a 2005 car with over 100,000 miles in it, so it's definitely better than the old unit. And having the Carplay and Android Auto and all the good stuff that comes along with that with the apps, it definitely brings the car a bit further into the relevant years than it's been for a long time. So looks good, fairly happy with that. I've turned that annoying beeping off when you touch the screen. You've got all your apps there as you would normally have on a modern car. Sound quality seems quite good. There's loads of different settings you go through. You've got you can go and deal with graphic equalizers and all sorts of stuff. There's presets that you can change, a load of them. So yeah, you can tune the sound to how you prefer. I've got the speakers to do next in the doors, but I'm going to probably just leave that till tomorrow. The wife's just came in from work, so all in all, it's only taken a few hours, a couple hours to install. I had to figure out the clips, so I had to go and Google a few things on that, but nobody really had an answer, so it looks like I've maybe just solved that problem for everybody just by straightening them out. So hopefully that's a good enough video for you anyway, guys, to make a decision. Seems worth it for a couple £100, a couple hours of your time, if you know how to use a soldering iron, and even use Scotch locks if you want, I suppose, for them cables that I connected up earlier. But yeah, very, very simple swap out, to be honest with you. A couple hours of your time and you've got a more up-to-date head unit in your car. So yeah, that's it. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks everyone, bye.